we were
Assalamu alaikum, sir.
Yeah,
Sir,
alaikum salam.
about
Yeah, yeah.
tomorrow's lab, sir. You told us that you'd discuss it. Like, would you be taking it tomorrow or would you be taking it after Eid?
Uh, we'll take it after Eid.
Okay, sir. Thank you,
Okay.
sir. Yes, sir.
Uh, I mean, it looked like it would be more convenient for most of you.
Yes, sir.
Okay. We were talking about the advantages and disadvantages for different modulation levels and different code rates at different qualities of radio link, which we uh, quant uh, quantified in terms of CINR. Okay. And shortly we'll see that a, a variation or adjustment of this modulation level or code rate is done depending on the radio link condition. So the radio link condition can vary with time, and accordingly, this modulation level and code rates should be adjusted. Okay, so it's an adaptation of these things, modulation coding levels. And so this whole topic is called link adaptation. And we will explain it using the example of cellular technology. And the term MCS we did not discuss before, but it's very simple. In the cellular example and in many other technologies, some particular modulation levels and code rates are used. Okay, so these are predetermined or preset. You have some particular modulation levels that you can use in this technology and some particular code rates. Also, there is a particular combination between these two, meaning that for say QPSK, a number of code rates are possible. Okay, so it may be code rate half, it may be code rate 1/3, 1/4. Okay, a number of code rates are preset for QPSK. And then again for say 16 QAM, a number of code rates you allow. And then for 64 QAM. So this way, different combinations of modulation level and code rates are preset. And this a particular set of modulation level and code rate is called then modulation encoding scheme, or MCS in short. Sorry. So this way you have different MCS levels. Okay. Like in the case of LTE, 27 MCS levels are predetermined. Okay, you have maybe, oh, give me a second. I'll quickly show you. Um, just a minute. I will show the different MCS levels for 5G. sorry, the table I have is not exactly the the table for MCS, rather is the table for what MCS levels are requested. Okay. Anyway, I'll shortly uh, mention a term CQI, okay, which is a request for a particular MCS level. Okay, for CQI, there are 15 levels. I'll tell you why it's 15 and it's not MCS. But let's just look at the different combinations for now. You see that uh, maybe if you look at the middle one, look at the middle table. Uh, it shows different MCS levels. The second column, look at the middle table. The second column in the table gives you the code rate, and the first column the modulation levels. So there is a combination. You have QPSK and this 0.076, okay, code rate. So that's a combination of MCS, modulation and coding scheme. Then another MCS. I mean, as you go downwards, the MCS level is higher, meaning that the number of bit that you send is uh, is higher. Okay, and you I mean, the third column shows you how much you are actually sending, or how much I mean, in terms of, say, number of bits per symbol. Okay, pretty much like that. So if you had code rate 1, then actually for QPSK you'd get 1 here in efficiency. Okay, so then it would sorry, efficiency 2. Okay, so showing that you are sending 2 bits per symbol. Okay, uh, so I mean, QPSK means 2 bits per symbol, but you have a code rate lower than 1, so the number of bits that you send uh, is actually lower than 2, and this efficiency shows how much it is. It is just 2 times this code rate. Okay. In the case of 16 QAM, you are sending 4 bits per symbol, and there's some code rate, so you multiply and then you see that how much you are sending. Okay, effectively how many bits per symbol you are sending effectively. Now you see that as you go downwards, you have better and better efficiency. So more bits you are sending per symbol. That way your data rate can increase. So every row indicates an MCS level. A particular combination of modulation and code rate, and particular MCS, and it is called MCS level. The MCS level is increasing. So you have different MCS levels. We have 15 different MCS levels here. Okay. It shows that you can have 256 QAM, so 8 bits. Okay, then multiplied by 8 bits per symbol, then 8 multiplied by code rate 7.4. Okay, it's this part is from the book specification of LT. No, in Now, as you change your location, your CINR can change, or even for your particular position, there can be a change in the environment, changing your CINR. So as your CINR changes, you a different MCS level can fit in better, can be a better choice. MCS level should be appropriately chosen, because if it is lower than what is appropriate, then you have some wastage. You are not, you could have used a higher MCS, increasing the data rate. We know that as you have higher MCS level, you can send more bits per symbol, definitely improving the data rate. So if it is lower than what is appropriate, then you are not using efficiently. If it is higher than what is appropriate, then also your data rate will degrade, because in that case you will have very high packet rate transmissions. The packet rate transmissions to some extent always take place, but in that case you will have uh, extremely high packet rate transmission, and there will be, I mean, you gain to some extent with your higher MCS, but you lose more with your packet rate transmissions. The overall data rate will be lower. So there has to be an optimum MCS level, and the network chooses these optimum MCS levels. The MCS levels that are allowed in different cellular technologies are shown here. You see that the number is improving day by day in the evolution of the technologies. In the case of GSM, uh, you there was uh, actually for GPRS there were, it's not showing, there are 4 different levels possible. Okay. When age came in, 8 different levels were allowed. GPRS did not allow variation of modulation level. Okay, well, sorry, it is showing only the modulation levels. I think there is another. Yeah, okay. It is showing only what modulation levels are allowed in different technologies. In GSM and GPRS, it is called GMSK, which is a variant of FSK. Age allows GMSK and HPSK. In GMSK, you send just 1 bit per symbol. In HPSK, you send 3 bits per symbol. EMTS uses only QPSK. I mean, it uses CDMA, which is a little different, and they initially started with only the support of QPSK. But when HSDPA and HSUPA was allowed, HSDPA added 16 QAM, but for HSUPA they fell back to BPSK. Okay, so HSDPA allows QPSK and 16 QAM, these two modulation levels. In the case of HSPA plus, in the downlink, QPSK 16 QAM and 64 QAM, these 3 modulation levels are allowed. In the uplink, HSUPA allows BPSK and 16 QAM. In the case of LT, the early versions allow QPSK 16 QAM and 64 QAM, both in downlink and uplink. In release 12, 256 QAM was added in the downlink. In uplink, the maximum support was still restricted to 64 QAM. In release 14, 256 QAM was added for uplink also. In release 15, 1024 QAM was added for both uplink and downlink. Okay. And 1024 QAM means, 10 bits per symbol. Now the number of MCS level depends on how many code rates you have for a particular modulation level. In GPRS, there were 4 MCS levels. I mean, you had only modulation scheme GMSK, but 4 different code rates were allowed. So it is well, it's about GPRS, which uses data. We are not talking about voice services here. For voice, I mean, let's just take it off the topic, okay, outside our syllabus. For voice, there's something called AMR, adaptive modulation rate. Um, and there were uh, two different types of voice call management: full rate and half rate. For full rate, 12 different levels were there. For half rate, 8 different rates, as far I remember now, were allowed. Okay, so different. So you could vary depending on the radio link condition. You could vary, but all of them were like variation of the code rate. The modulation level was always GMSK. Anyway, for data, only 4 levels, 4 different coders are allowed. For age, okay, with GMSK you have 4 different coders, but with HPSK you have 5. So in total, 9 MCS levels are there. For HSDPA, in total there are 16 MCS levels for these 2 modulation levels, QPSK and 16 QAM. There are in total 16 MCS levels. For LT, the number of modulation levels supported can differ. It can be only the first 3 or the first 4 or all these 5 modulation levels. And I mean 5G is starts from release 15. Okay, so 5G, the platform for 5G is actually the same as you have for LTE. Um, so in the case of 5G, you again have all these 5 from QPSK through 1024 QAM, and you have 27 different MCS levels. Okay. Um, well, you need to select the particular MCS level depending on the radio link condition. The radio link condition keeps varying always. Okay, and you always keep adapting to your radio link condition. The network tries to choose the best MCS level. Now you can hear me, right? Just to make sure that you can hear me, I just stop the sharing. It's going fine, right?
Yes, sir, everything is fine. So we are here, sir.
Okay, so I'll go back to the presentation. So I'm again showing the slide. Now you can see that the number of, on one side, the capabilities of the modulation level you can support is improving day by day because the technology is getting more advanced. And the higher the modulation level you can support, the more can be the data rate. Okay, the higher number of bits you can fit in fit in a single symbol, and the overall data rate would improve. On the other hand, the number of MCS levels is also improving. In the beginning, you had only 4, then 9, then 16, and now it is 27. So this is also possible because of some progress in the technology, and the increase in this number helps you to better tune to the radio link condition. As the radio link condition, we know that we should change the MCS level. But if the granularity is higher, how many levels you have for MCS to tune um, according to your radio link condition? Okay, if this number increases, that means that you can probably better tune. Okay, you can set a more optimum MCS level considering the current radio link condition. And that has been possible with the improvement of the technology. So the rationale behind the increase in the uh, mm, in the number of MCS levels is to help you better tune to the current radio link condition, and uh, it is uh, I mean, it's not like you could have used 27 MCS levels in 2G days. You could not. The technology the support in the technology was not that smart then. Okay, so it is this support is improving in the technology, and that's why they are also increasing the number of MCS levels. But 27 is already, enough high. Uh, so if your SINR gets better, okay, you would enjoy better data rate, and you should experience this change when you are using some data. You should experience that the data rate changes from time to time. Okay, so now you know that it happens primarily this way. As your SNR gets better, your MCS is uh, is higher then. Okay, so allowing higher data rate, and also the packet retransmissions should be fewer. Okay, that can also improve the data rate. It can affect both ways. Okay, but it depends, okay, whether the packet rate transmission will be higher or lower, because you're increasing your MCS level. Okay, so since you're already increasing the MCS level, the packet retransmission rate may remain unchanged, although your SINR has got better. Okay, so it depends. Okay, but I mean, if you want to comment independently, okay, for a particular MCS level, if your SINR goes better, then of course your packet retransmission will be lower. Okay, so you may experience fewer packet retransmissions, and when you have fewer packet retransmission, your data rate actually improve. Your original information can be sent higher or more. And now the third point is not directly related. The total radio resources available in I mean, depends on the total spectrum. Okay, is actually fixed, uh, and that is apportioned among the different users. Okay, the term UE stands for user equipment or the phone. So different users are allocated different amount of radio resources. Well, when you have better SINR, then you can uh, make better use of the radio resources. You can operate with better MCS, so you have a better utilization. You can get good data rate out of your radio resources. But the guy who is far away from the base station and suffering from good interference from another cell uh, has poor SINR. So he operates at lower MCS level or high packet rate transmissions, and so he experiences lower data rate with whatever radio resources he has been allocated. So he does not have good utilization of the radio resources allocated. So it doesn't makes a lot of sense to give him a lot of radio resources. Okay, because if you give him a lot of resources, other people in the cell will get less. The total radio resource is fixed. That depends on the total spectrum used in the particular cell. So that there should be a logical apportionment, logical distribution among the users. So a guy who is closer can make better utilization. So it makes sense that he is given a larger share of radio resources. When the guy who is far away comes close, okay, you can also give him a larger share. Okay. So it's not to deprive the guy who is far away, it is just because he is not in a position to make good use of what the base station allocates him, what resources are allocated to him. So as you get closer or your SANR gets better, the network can allocate you a larger share of radio resources. So that can be another way for you to enjoy better data rate. Okay. So as you should experience a variation in your data rate experience. It can vary widely. Sometimes it can be pretty high, so it can drop also significantly, and this shows why it happens. So basically, we are trying to focus link adaptation. So as your radio link condition changes or CINR changes, you should adapt. Okay, your parameters should be changed accordingly, uh, or your I mean, whatever. I mean, at the transmitting and the receiving ends, you should make some adjustments accordingly. Okay, so that is called link adaptation. We have so far discussed the first point here, adaptive modulation and coding. That you adapt your module MCS, you change your modulation and coding scheme or MCS depending on the radio link condition, that is AMC. Well, the second point we have also discussed, channel dependent scheduling. Not fully we have discussed, but to some extent that uh, here the term scheduling refers to how you schedule or allocate the radio resources. So you can allocate different amount of radio resources to different people depending on their radio link conditions. Also, in the spectrum, their experience can differ at different frequencies. Okay, so all technologies does not support the CDS this way, but in LT it is possible that it checks how the users um, experience the radio link condition at different frequencies. Okay, you have certain spectrum for your cell, and within this spectrum range, at different frequencies, the radio link condition can differ for different UEs. The reason is that, say, the UEs are scattered, the users are scattered in the cell, and so they are close to the distance from from the neighboring cells also differ for the UEs in the cell. Okay, because they are scattered, they have different positions in the cell, so the distance from the neighboring cells are also different among the UEs. So they experience different types of interference, and the interference in the neighboring cells will actually vary at different frequencies, because they are supporting their UEs at different frequencies. Different users in their cells are supported at different frequencies, and they are using different power levels. So some user uh, may be located pretty far in its own cell, and I mean in a neighboring cell, and that neighboring base station is using high power for that UV, and one particular UV unfortunately is pretty close to that UV, so he also experienced good interference, but for that particular frequency. At other frequencies it experiences good SINR, but another UV is not close to that in your cell, is not close to that UV in the neighboring cell. Okay, he is close to another UV in another cell, and so he experiences high interference on a different frequency. So other frequencies are same, good. So different UEs in your own cell will have dif different uh, levels of interference or different types of SINR at different frequencies. So it makes sense that you allocate the radio resources to different UEs considering their own radio link conditions at different frequencies. Okay, so this is possible in the case of LTE and 5G, and it is really done. And so you also update all these things from time to time, right? I mean, this whole condition will change from time to time, right? So in both time and frequency domains, you keep adapting to the radio link conditions. So this is serious. The third point tells you the transmission power control. Well, the transmit power levels are also adjusted as your SANR vary. As you go further away from the base station, both in downlink and uplink, the transmit power is increased. The base station increases its power level, the EV increases its power level uh, because the path loss is increasing. Okay, but you may uh, be thinking how it comes to know that the path loss is increasing and we need a change of the power control. Okay, there is a continuous assessment of the received power level. Okay, well, what is done in the case of, although I did not explain it here in detail, but let me quickly tell you. In the case of uplink, I mean, the decisions are always taken by the base station. How much power should be used for transmission in both downlink and uplink is decided by the base station. In the case of uplink, the base station is listening to you, to the user. So as you go further away from the base station, it receives lower power level. It finds that the received power level is decreasing. Then it asks the EV to increase the power level. Okay, so I mean, very frequently it communicates to the EV and it keeps adjusting the power level. If you get closer to the base station, then it will receive higher power level. Then it can ask you that lower your power. So always there is a fine control over the transmit power level. There has to be fine control because you may again be thinking that if little higher power level is used, that is better. The base station will hear better. The SINR at the base station or in the receive signal at the base station will be higher. So what is the problem with that? Why the base station will ask him to lower the power level readily? But it will readily ask, because little higher power level than what is appropriate, okay, uh, can cause interference to another cell. You need to keep in mind that the same frequencies are reused around. So the power level, the levels should also be optimum, okay, not lower than what is optimum. Then the SINR at the receiving end will be very low, not higher than the optimum. Then also the then also the SINR would be affected in the neighboring cells. Okay, So in the system, there people are affected. So in every cell, there should be good power control, and this is called TPC, transmission power control. Now, in the case of downlink, it is the base station which is listening to the EV. Okay, so the base station needs to know how much power. I mean, how is the level of reception? Okay, at the EV end. So there is actually some feedback from the EV, depending on which the base station decides how the power level should be. However, the um, specification does not directly um, standardize this part. In the standards, there are some specific guidelines for the uplink power control, but the downlink power control schemes are pretty much left to the operator. It's left to them, I mean, and they decide how they should perform the power control. But of course, it depends on some feedback from the EV. I mean, the EV actually has some feedback that we'll shortly discuss. Okay, that can also be used for this purpose. So anyway, so there is a frequent transmit power control, and in LT, the maximum frequency you can use for this power control is 1000 times a second. In every millisecond, you can uh, have a command for power control. You can adjust the transmit power level. Okay, the base station can send a command for power control in every millisecond. At the maximum, 1000 times a second, it can perform power control, okay, or adjustment of transmit power. In CDMA, it is 1500 times a second. The maximum is 1500 times. CDMA is more sensitive to power. The CDMA technology itself is more sensitive to the power, uh, I mean, to the optimum power level. You need to, I mean, you need to be very careful about how much power you are using in the system. Okay, it should be properly. If it is properly chosen, then the system capacity improves a lot. Okay, so the maximum frequency is even higher in 3G. The fourth one is multiple antenna schemes. There are different MIMO techniques. We'll touch upon MIMO inshallah at the end of this course. You can use multiple antennas at the transmitting and the receiving ends, and using them you can improve the CINR, receive CINR, okay, effectively receive CINR, or for the same CINR you can improve data rate. Okay, you can have multiple streams of data. Okay, so these are some recent technologies, MIMO, and this MIMO involves different parameters, and depending on the radio link conditions, these parameters are also adjusted. Okay, so these are the four types of adaptation that is done as the radio link conditions are changing. As you are moving through the cell, okay, you're changing your position within the cell. These things will automatically be adjusted, okay, very frequently. This modulation, I mean MCS or I mean CDS, they all can be adjusted at every millisecond in LT. Yes, I mean when you discuss LT in cellular communication course, you'll see that I mean there is some granularity of millisecond there for resource allocation, for setting MCS, okay, all of them. So this transmission parameters are changed on the fly to better adjust to the changing radio link condition. Uh, I think I have, well, this slide I will omit. Okay, I mean, this thing I think it is better to discuss in the other course. Okay, this slide I'll omit. Okay, now in this slide I will talk about that CQI. Well, for selection of MCS in downlink and uplink, the procedures are a little different. Here we discuss how it is done for downlink, and thereafter we'll discuss how it is done in uplink, and that completes our present discussion. Uh, well, maybe I discuss how it is done in uplink first. Okay, like I told you that for power control. In the case of uplink, well, like the base station serves like the master. Okay, like the power control for MCS also, it is the base station, or it is called E node B in the case of LTE, which decides. So the E node B will decide MCS level to be used for both downlink and uplink. For both downlink and uplink, E node B will decide what MCS level should be used. In the case of up, but it should depend on the radio link condition. And the radio link condition can be actually determined from the receiving end, not from the transmitting end. From the transmitting end, you don't know how the radio link you have ahead of you. But from the receiving end, you know the received signal quality, you know the SINR that you are receiving. So you have an estimation of the radio link condition. In the case of uplink, it is the E node B who is receiving. And the E node B has to decide. So things are simple here. Depending on what it is receiving, it can decide the MCS level. So the E node B is transmitting data, and depending on its reception, it can decide the MCS level. Okay. Also, I did not mention here because we are limiting our discussion in this course. Okay, we'll discuss in detail in the cellular communication course. The E node B asks the, oh yeah, and the third point I have mentioned, the UE asks the UE to have some dummy transmissions, not actually the transmission of your real data. Okay, some dummy transmission. These are called SRS. Some signal transmissions the UE performs at different frequencies. Okay, so based on that, the E node B can actually decide how the uplink is performing at different frequencies, because the performance can vary. And the E node B, based on that, decides which part of the spectrum should be allocated to this EV for its uplink, and what should be the MCS level for that part. Okay, both the resources, the part of the spectrum that should be allocated, and what MCS level should be used in as the for that uh, part of the spectrum. So on the one hand, the E node B listens to the E node B checks the SINR of the date of its current reception of data. Okay, the EV is sending data in the uplink, and the E node B checks how it is performing, how the SINR is at this for this reception of data. So also for the performance at other frequencies, okay, is checked, and depending on that, the E node B decides, okay, what frequencies it should be allocated and how the MCS levels should be. So the E node B selects one of the 27 MCS levels. So the specification book actually lists this particular 27 MCS levels. It is in 40, I think it is in 26, sorry, 36 to 11 or 36 to 12. Okay, so these are some 3GPP. All the specific books have some number. So if you check the 36 to 11, 36.211, 36.212, okay, have this list of 27 MCS levels. Okay, that's how you adjust the MCS for uplink transmission. Now for downlink, there is a challenge that it is the UE, okay, or the phone, which is the receiver. So the UE knows the radio link condition, but the base station has to decide the MCS level. The base station does not leave it to the UE. So at the second point, you can see that the UE not be like before, selects one of the 27 MCS levels. So how it is done? The only way the E node B can decide if the EV sends some feedback to the E node B, and that is done. And this feedback is called channel quality indicator, or CQI. Okay. So the CQI is actually a suggestion from the EV that in the downlink, this MCS level may be used. So it is only a suggestion. The the E node B is not bound to actually, use the same suggestion or honor the suggestion. Okay, it can use any MCS level, but most likely it will be something close to that. So since it is not, the number of MCS levels it has to choose is 27, but for CQI, the number of levels are 15, as we recently saw in the table. Okay, because it is merely a suggestion. You don't exactly, the unit will not exactly pay heed to that, okay, or follow this suggestion. So this suggestion is just an indication of the estimated radio link quality. So you may use fewer bits for this feedback. This feedback is an overhead. So without instead of uh, 27 levels, only 15 levels are used, which require 14-bit CQI, 4 bits, sorry, 4-bit information CQI can indicate 15 different levels of CQI, right? So CQI has 15 levels. Okay, so it indicates different MCS level. Now there is also a mechanism like when the ENODB selects the MCS levels for both downlink and uplink, it does not do it with a target of zero packet rate transmission. We know that there is a correlation between, there is a dependency of uh, packet rate transmission on the MCS level. If the MCS level is higher, then packet rate transmission will also increase. Okay. So how it should be chosen? Should the MCS level be chosen like as low as possible so that packet rate transmission falls to zero? No. The packet rate transmission is the target packet rate transmission is not zero. Because if you make the target very low for your packet rate transmission, your MCS level will be very low. You'll lose a lot there. So you should have some balance. Rather, the target packet retransmission is set to be like something close to 10%, not exceeding 10%, but you may set the target to be like, I will allow 8% packet retransmission, and let me choose an MCS level high enough for this 8% packet retransmissions. Then you can be actually, you can relax. You can choose a better MCS level. Some packet retransmission will always be there in wireless communication. You cannot avoid. There will be some errors. I mean, wireless environment is lousy. There will always be some errors included. Okay, so you don't expect to have zero packet retransmission. So rather make it like 6%, 8%. Okay, but don't make your target to be exceeding 10%. Okay, then you'll actually lose your packet MCS level will be too high to have very high packet retransmission, losing your data rate. So the thumb rule is that your target packet retransmission should be close to 10%, but not exceeding 10%. Okay, and of course, once the UE selects an MCS level, it has to notify that this particular MCS level has been used. Okay, so for downlink transmission, it chooses the MCS level and also uses this MCS level to create the downlink packet, and it also tells the UE that this particular MCS level has been used in this data packet. Otherwise, the E node B cannot actually recover the data. Okay, from the packet, it cannot recover the data if the MCS level is unknown. Okay, so that is what I have mentioned in the third point. For uplink, it doesn't have to, because for uplink, the E node B has already asked or commanded the EV. The EV must follow this command. Okay, the EV must use whatever has been commanded, whatever MCS level has been commanded. So the E node B knows what MCS level has been used in this uplink data packet. So the EU doesn't need to indicate. Okay. This completes this part of our discussion. Questions?
No, sir, no questions.
Okay. So you could, was it clear enough? Okay. Things are
So it's a new topic, sir. It's like it's a little new, sir. It's like
right.
we have to like study it, sir, so that we come up with problems, sir. So then it will
Okay.
be better to
Okay.
understand.
Okay. 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 I got it. But it's interesting, right? I mean,
Yes, sir.
this
Yes,
is
sir. Yes,
this is really happening with your phone. If you're not using this session using your
yes,
phone,
sir.
okay, you have continuous link adaptation. You
Yes,
have
sir.
continuous change of MCS levels. Okay, that is always taking place.
Yes, sir.
From now on, actually, when you talk to someone, okay,
Yes, sir.
you should be more thoughtful about what is happening there. Okay,
Yes, sir.
maybe maybe you forget, okay, what the other guy is asking, because you're
Yes, sir.
thinking that now MCS level is changing this way. Okay,
Yes, sir.
the command for MCS levels are actually changing. Okay, these things are working this. You should be thinking more about these things, and you should forget what the other guy is communicating to you. Okay.
Yes, sir.
Okay, now we will discuss. Give me a second. I told you before that the topics after this meet would be more interesting. Okay,
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
so now we'll discuss IoT. Our present discussion is IoT. It's because I mean, if you look at our syllabus, there is not IoT, of course, for this course. But we need to discuss it because the syllabus was developed long ago.
Yes,
Okay.
sir.
IoT was not really, I mean, uh, it was not much into the technologies then. Okay.
Yes, sir.
But now uh, IoT is uh, taking a good part of the whole communication.
Yes,
And
sir.
for IoT, in many cases, wireless will be the platform. Okay,
Yes, sir.
so we should have an understanding how the IoT is implemented using wireless. So it's merely an idea. We will not discuss much about its implementation techniques, okay, but rather an overall idea we will try to discuss here. And the detailed discussion uh, with cellular platform of IoT we'll discuss in the cellular communication course. Okay, now let me show you first the how the IoT market is growing. Okay. So it's the market size in billion US dollars. Okay. I mean it is the forecast may not always closely match. Okay, but you can see that uh, considering the forecast, I mean it is growing very fast. It is growing very fast. Uh, and I mean, so many $billion you have now. I mean, people are spending on IT solutions. Okay, so people are spending, or people will be spending so much US dollars. Okay, and you know what? When I see billion US dollars, my tongue gets juicy. You know, I love money. Okay.
Yes, sir.
Uh, but anyway, so uh, you should understand that this area of technology is growing very fast. And to meet this growing demand, a lot of activities are there. There is a lot of research in this area, how you can support this tremendous demand of IoT solutions. Okay. So a lot of improvements are yet to take place in this area. The relative share in the among the different areas of the world. Okay, so as you can see that this Asia Pacific has a good share. Okay, in terms of money. Okay, so you should be serious about working in IoT area. Okay, right? So it, or also you may want to do some business in IoT area. Okay. So, even in our country, you know, I mean, Grameen and Ruby are offering a lot of IoT services already for vehicle tracking, for asset monitoring, for different purposes. There are
So
already
when we
very,
say IoT, sir, in this communication, sir, what are the things that we tend to include in our wording of this thing?
yeah.
What are the
I'll
things that
discuss
are
that.
included?
I'll discuss the first two slides is just
Okay, okay, sir.
is
Yes.
just for an attraction. Okay,
Okay,
then I discuss what it is.
okay, okay, sir.
Well,
Yes.
by IoT we mean that you have some machine to machine communication. Okay, like
Okay, okay.
when you call someone, then you are actually at both ends. There are human beings, right? You are talking to your friend. You at both ends you are uh, two you are persons, okay, communicating, or you are human beings. So in that case, this type of communication is called H to H, human to human communication. Okay, for voice call or for say video call between two people. This type of communication, I'll write down this term, H to H, human to human. H to H communication. On the other hand, if there are some uh, equipment, some, I mean, if they're not machine, if they're not persons, rather some machines which take care of something, okay, some processes, then it is called machine to machine communication, or M2M. A synonym of the same thing is MTC, machine type communication. Okay. Uh, Now this in this case, you are using a device. I mean, somewhere, okay, and you are making use of that for some purpose. Now, in fact, machine to machine does not always have to be IoT. Uh, like, say, if you consider the pause that you use when you swipe your ATM card, okay, swipe your credit card, uh, you have some actually machine to machine communication. It falls to MTC or M2M, okay, but you may not call it IoT. In the case of IoT, you have some particular device for which is some automated device. Some, say, for example, some it is collecting. There are some sensors which are collecting some data. You have some devices there. So this M2M even worked on, you know what, in the past. There were also some use of this machine to machine communication which did not use IP. IP is something that used currently for all internet based communication. And in the for IoT, the first condition is that the communication has to use this IP. Okay. So different um, I mean devices which require communication are connected to internet. Okay, I mean the internet cloud that you have, the internet system you have around the world is used for the communication. So the device would be connected to the to this internet, and then it performs the communication. If it is like that, you have, say, like in USA, I purchased some wireless temperature, a remote temperature indication, so a device for remote temperature indication. So at the basement, sometimes it gets too cold, so the transmitter has to be put there. In the basement, you can put it, and then in your bedroom, you can put the other part of this setup, which is a display. So on the display, it's wireless communication. On the display, you can see what temperature you have in the basement. The transmitter at the basement keeps sending data. But this does not fall into IoT because it's a just two-way communication between these two without using the internet cloud. There's a direct communication. IoT means the communication uses the internet. If if the transmitter is connected to internet, and I mean, say the display and the bedroom is also connected to the internet, and that's how they communicate with each other, then it can be called IoT. So it is Internet of Things. Internet of Things. Things are connected to internet, and then you establish the communication. So the implementation can be very easy when you uh, get all the different devices this way connected. Okay, easily you can add more and more devices for different purposes to this. You just they'll be just connected to the system. Okay, you can uh, enhance the deployment. You can add new features easily. Okay, so a lot of things you can play around with when you use uh, a setup this way, that things are connected to internet first. Okay, and internet is a very efficient um, I mean backbone, or a routing uh, has a very efficient network, okay, for routing the information. Now,
Sir,
this
nowadays,
IoT
sir,
device, oh, yes.
nowadays, yes, sir. One
Mhm,
question, sir.
mhm,
Not
mhm.
question, sir. Speculation.
Okay.
Sir, nowadays, sir, you know that, sir, smart devices, they try to connect with each other. So, like, our phone connects with our laptop, connects with our watch, like everything, sir. It
Mhm.
connects through the internet, sir, right, sir, wirelessly. So, can we call that IoT?
Yeah, I mean, say when you use Bluetooth, it is not IoT.
No, but sir, my
But
Bluetooth
when
is
you,
connected with my phone and laptop and my watch. Like, if it's a smartwatch, I'm just saying. So,
no,
can we call that IoT?
well, as long as, I mean, what when two devices are connected, okay,
Yes,
two devices are communicating to each other, it depends on what you are using for this particular communication. At one end you may still have some connection to the internet, that's different. Well, maybe, I mean, you have some devices, say you have a wireless keyboard, wireless mouse, which are using
yes, sir. Yes,
bluetooth
sir.
bluetooth for connection to your computer. Your computer may be connected to internet, but this internet connection is not used for the connection between the computer and the keyboard. Okay, so it is not IoT.
Okay, sir. Okay, sir. Okay,
IoT
sir.
means, in the case of IoT, the connection between the two things that you are considering will be using internet. You have internet on the way. Okay, uh, so yeah, you are right. Actually, you don't use internet in all cases. Okay, there are different other options, uh, and so it is not always IoT, but uh, we will actually touch upon other options too. Okay, I mean, what you have. So anyway, it is now 11:44. But let me tell you first, even for IoT, uh, it is not always wired. It is not always wireless. It can be wired connection too. Your All you need is a connection to internet. So there can be, say, you can have some sensor at some fixed points for some doors or something. So you are operating a door using IT. So there's a connection to internet uh, with some fixed wiring, with some Ethernet cables. So it is wired connection. It can be wired or it can be wireless. As long as you have internet on the way, it is IoT. Okay, so that's it for our discussion today. Any other questions?
No, sir. No, sir.
So I'll see you after Eid, inshallah. Okay,
Inshallah, sir. Eid Mubarak, sir.
Eid Mubarak. Okay.
Sir, how is your son doing, sir? Sorry, I couldn't
Alhamdulillah,
ask.
Alhamdulillah, he is doing great. He always makes fun. Okay, even,
That's
even
good, sir.
even right before his surgery and right after his surgery,
Yes, sir.
he made fun when the doctors said that we'll now put you into sleep. Okay, he said that. So can I have a dream? Uh, is it okay that I have a dream now? So he's, Alhamdulillah, he's doing great.
Alhamdulillah, sir.
And so please pray for us.
Always, sir.
Thank
Always, sir.
you. Thank
You
you
do
very
too, sir.
much.
Take care.
Inshallah, I will.
Assalamu alaikum, sir.
Jazakallah. Wa alaikum assalam. Wa alaikum assalam.